Last night on MasterChef Australia,
one of you is going home.
Aaron, Marion and Jonathan faced elimination in a basic skills test.
I'm just happy there's 2 rounds.
And for Marion, the MasterChef journey ended.
It's the end of my time in the competition, but it's not the end of my story.
Tonight, it's a change of pace as Gary and George take over the kitchen.
First of all, I think it's worth saying that you need to try new things.
On the menu, a succulent roast pheasant.
Oh, wow. It's great, isn't it?
And for dessert, a luxurious chocolate fondant.
Bit of Chipotle and I'll be having a good time.
Plus, we join Lauren Murdoch to learn the fine art of tapas.
Tapas can take on many styles and forms.
And whip up 4 simple yet tasty dishes.
It's an awesome dish.
Lauren, I can't wait to try it at home.
Finally time for MasterClass. It's been a really emotional week.
But now it's time to kick back and learn from Gary and George.
It's hard to believe that we're here at MasterClass number 12 right now. Every MasterClass, you become a better cook.
Well, welcome back to the MasterChef kitchen and, of course, welcome to MasterClass. What's special about MasterClass now is that there's so few of you. It's so personal, isn't it? And we get a chance to cook together, really. We demonstrate something, recap on some of the mistakes that you made during the week, but also to share some of that knowledge, share some of that information. And believe it or not, it actually comes this way as much as it does that. Things that we pick up from you, and that's lovely to see.
Earlier this week, Marion, Alvin, Aaron and Peter faced off in the pressure test. Unfortunately, Peter failed to impress.
I don't have any raspberry in mine.
And has left the competition. Courtney, you came back into the competition with Peter. How does it feel now that he's left?
It really does turn your world upside down, coming back into the competition. It's hard not to sort of think ahead and think what might be. And for Pete to only be here such a short time, I'm sure he's very disappointed. And yeah, we all miss him, but that's the name of the game. Everyone's going to go and we're going to get smaller and smaller, and it's just a matter of who goes.
That's right.
On the back of the Army Challenge, the blue team went into an elimination. Jonathan, Aaron and, of course, Marion faced off in a basic skills test. In the second round, it came down to Aaron and Marion, where they had to make their own version of a satay sauce. They had 15 minutes to do it, so they were racing against the clock. Bottom line, Marion, I'm so sorry. Aaron's satay sauce was the one that we'd go back for. Marion was eliminated from the competition and went home. It was a massive shock, but you know what? It throws this competition wide open, and it shows you that if you're not careful, you can fall at the smallest hurdle. Aaron, do you think Marion's going to go on and do well?
Marion's unstoppable. You know, the way she approaches food, her ideas, they're incredible. So, look, she's going to use this for whatever it is and just go forward like a freight train. And best of luck to her.
Right, on to happier things. And this week's private masterclass is going to revolve around tapas. And for 2 of you this week, you're going to be heading off to the much-loved Ash Street Cellar, where Chef Lauren Murdoch will be sharing her knowledge of that much-loved cuisine. And the lucky 2 will be Callum and Courtney.
Yay.
Callum, Courtney, off you go. Enjoy yourselves.
Bye. Lauren is the chef down at Ash Street Cellar, one of Sydney's hotspots for tapas, so I can't wait to go and see what she's got cooking.
I love tapas food. I love the idea of sharing food. And I'm really interested to pick up a few tips about it.
OK, who knows what this is?
Pheasant?
Yep, you're right. It's a pheasant. And it's skinnier than a chicken, like a commercial chicken. But the reason they're skinnier is because they're not crossbred and reared to be those little plump, domestic chickens that we have now. So quite a skinny breast and a hard-working pair of legs as well. Let's be honest. These aren't the most tender of things, so you have to treat it very differently to a domestic chicken. And you'll find that with things like guinea fowl as well. It's exactly the same. In this country, they aren't game. They're now reared domestically, so they're not technically a game bird. And by definition, game is something that's been caught, shot, killed wild. Sounds gruesome, but that's the reality of it. And kangaroo is probably the closest thing that we get to it. So this pheasant is going to be the centrepiece of our dish today. We're going to do a roast crown of pheasant with peas, bacon, little baby shallots and salsify. So roasting on the crown just means on the bone. So this pheasant already has the wings, the legs and the back of the carcass removed. Now I need some help with the next step. So Claire, up you come. Right, so first up, we're going to make a little tarragon butter to put underneath the skin. So we don't need all of this butter, just a couple of little chunks. Yep, and a good handful of that tarragon, bit of salt and pepper. So tarragon's a sort of an aniseedy soft herb, and it goes beautifully with this delicate meat. And what I might do is we just do some very thin slices of garlic, and we'll put those underneath the skin. This is that single bulb garlic, which is quite interesting. So just give that a good old mix. It needs to be soft enough so that it'll go under the skin. So you've mixed that together, a little bit of lemon juice. And have you been quite heavy with the seasoning? Because that's the key with this.
We probably need some more.
Okay. And the reason you want to be quite heavy with the seasoning is because this is part of the seasoning on the bird. And we'll use a bit of this to finish it off in the pan when it comes out. All right? Right, what you do is you just pull back the skin and then you just push your finger in. And being very careful not to tear it, you draw your finger back down to the front. And what you'll find is that it's connected on that central breastbone. So you've got to be careful. If you try and run your finger over the top of it straight away, it's going to tear. So you've just got to be really gentle. And that's why I'm drawing it back down towards myself. All right? But what we're going to do is just going to put this butter underneath the skin and spread it evenly. Now this will melt out fairly quickly, but what it will leave as it melts is that lovely tarragon and that salt and pepper. And then what we'll do is put in a couple of little slithers of that garlic, just so that it puts a bit of flavour on the breast, all right? And then you can do the other side. I love the idea of using a soft butter. I think it's really nice. What you're doing is you're trying to give it a bit of protection. And what they use with a lot of games, if they're not fatty, is a little piece of speck or fat. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but things like grouse, for example, in Europe, they'll put a little bit of speck or bacon over the front, and you actually cook it with that speck on, and what it does is it acts as a barrier to stop the heat penetrating the breast while the legs cook. The whole purpose is to keep it moist and to act as a barrier, and this is much the same. So a speck or a bacon, a butter, or another type of fat. Perfect. We're done. Claire, good job.
Thanks, Gary.
Dirty little hands, but good job. Okay, so pheasant's ready to go. It's on the crown, the butter's under the skin, it's got a little bit of seasoning on the flesh. Now we're going to just give it another little season, and that includes in the cavity as well. And we just want to maximise the flavour, because it's not going to take that long to cook. I reckon about 12 to 15 minutes at the most, all right? And even though it won't stay in there, not for very long, I'm just going to put that lemon and a bit of that tarragon and a little bit of this garlic just in that cavity, because anything I reckon that gives you that little bit of flavour is great. And I'm going to cook the bones in there as well, as if I'm going to make a gravy au jus, just to show you. Now, actually, in this dish, we're not going to use it, but it's important that you understand the process. What it will do is show you that you can make a beautiful little gravy out of all this. So, hot pan, a little bit of oil. We're going to chuck in those little bones, because we'll use those as a trivet. And then, good technique to follow. It's a bit like when I showed you how to grill a steak. Try and work methodically. all right? And what I do is I always put breast side down, but breast side to the edge of the pan, all right? And that's going to give its first little caramelisation on the skin. Now we're going to do this again at the end of the cooking in terms of basting. So this is about introducing a little bit of crisp, a little bit of golden brown, but not a massive amount. And the butter is going to melt pretty quickly, leaving that seasoning behind. All right? That smells absolutely delicious already. So what I'm doing is I'm just flipping this just to make sure that the fat is rendering and that it's starting to caramelise. I'm just going to bring that little trivet of bones in close to the crown so it's nice and secure. And I'm going to make sure that I do this a couple of times during the process, but just give it a baste. And then we're going to pop that in the oven, okay? So, pheasant's in the oven, 180 degrees, 12 to 15 minutes, which I think is just long enough for George to nip in and make this beautiful little pea, salsify and baby shallot garnish. It's going to go with our pheasant dish.
Ah, what a delicious dish we're making today. Roast pheasant with peas, bacon, baby shallots and salsify. Right, so Gary's got the pheasant in the oven cooking. And while that's cooking, we're going to prepare this little garnish. And a delicious garnish it is. Some stuff that you guys probably haven't used before or even eaten. But salsify is beautiful, and that's the first step. We're going to prepare the salsify. Salsify is a root vegetable. It's also known as goat's beard, hence the, yeah? Easy to find? Not really. I mean, you need to go to your special little, markets to find this. Quite an interesting vegetable. It's got quite similar characteristics to parsnip. And when it's in season, right now, it's delicious. But there's a certain technique in preparing this vegetable because it goes brown very, very quickly. So to help me make that, Aaron, step on up and let's play. Thank you. Right, Aaron, come on in, man. I'm going to show you how to prepare one and then you can do the rest. Basically, you need some acidulated water first. So lemon juice would be fine. You can use vinegar. Plain tap water's fine. Doesn't need to be cold. Definitely not hot, that's for sure. Now, to prepare the salsify, you basically need to just first remove it from the root because these are the bits that we want. Okay, so we've got plenty of that. The next step is to peel the salsify. If I'm peeling something, I'll always peel on a tray. Why? So I can pick the tray up, discard the rubbish, my chopping board's nice and clean. Okay, so your bowl of acidulated water right there, your peeler, your tray, and then just in one motion, you've got to peel basically the skin off, and you want to keep the shape of the salsify. All right? Straight into the water. All right? Your turn, man.
Okay.
Aaron, have you ever seen anything like this before?
I haven't, but I am a big fan of parsnips, so if it tastes like that, I'd be a big fan of salsify.
Has anyone used salsify before? No? While you're peeling that, Aaron, the next step is really important. I'm going to show you a real classic technique to cook something like that. It's called cooking something in a blanc, classic French technique to make something white, all right? Because if you don't cook it like that, it will end up being brown. I've got about 500 mils of water and I've got some plain flour. And basically, I turn the gas on and I rain in some of this flour to create, it's quite odd, but like a little slurry. And what that's going to do is protect the salsify from turning brown. So about to 500 mils of water, about a half a cup of flour. And, of course, some lemon juice, about half a lemon. And you can throw the whole lot in there. Cool, man. I think that should be heaps.
Excellent.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Aaron's done a great job in peeling the salsify. The next step is to just trim them up ready for presentation. So, I mean, look, I love these bits because they're quite natural. So I'm not going to really fuss around with those pieces. But these are a tad too long, so I'll just cut them on an angle. And they all can go straight into the blanc. And then we pop a little cartouche over the top, just to make sure they don't come up. And we'll just pop this on low heat and gently cook them. Right, the next step is to prepare the black garlic. And I'm not sure if many of you have seen it before, but this black garlic is absolutely beautiful. They basically take garlic and they ferment it at a high heat, so at about 120 degrees for about 3 weeks. The flavour's quite interesting. It sort of turns it into this sort of caramel, sort of molasses flavour, and doesn't need much cooking at all. Literally in a pan, a little bit of butter, and it's beautiful. It also makes the most amazing puree. It's delicious stuff, really delicious. Jimmy, do you want to come and have a little taste?
Yes.
Here, maybe take some back and give it to the others. There you go. What are you tasting?
It's actually quite sweet. Some of the sugars are still in there, but it's got that garlic taste to it, but it's sort of halfway between roasted and like a balsamic face to it, almost to it, because that's the sugar part I can taste.
Exactly right.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah. Quite nice.
Oh, interesting texture, isn't it? Can you smell it?
So for this recipe, we probably need about 8 to 9 cloves of the black garlic. I'm just going to check the salsify to see if it's cooked. If a knife goes through it, it's cooked. It's always good to leave the salsify cool down in the blanc, all right? So you can have this pre-made, cool it down, leave it in the fridge, and as you need some, you pull it out, all right? And it'll keep it nice and white. Right, the next step is to cook our little dish. Nice heavy based frying pan, some olive oil in the pan, a little bit of butter as well. Okay, we throw our peeled shallots in, golden shallots that we've just quartered. Next is we've got this flat pancetta. That's absolutely beautiful. And we've just cut them into lardons, yeah? Lardons is basically when you take a cross-section of the pancetta, you end up with meat, fat, meat, fat, meat, and fat. About a half a cup of lardon. The next ingredient that's going to go in is the salsify. I'm just going to drain it on the paper towel just to get rid of any of that excess moisture. And we'll just pop that in. These won't take very long to cook. All we really want to do is get some colour on them. Right, we've already cooked them in that blanc, the water and the flour mixture. Right, we're just going to let this sauté for a few minutes, get some nice colour, bleed the fat out of that lardon because that's got so much flavour. And then we're going to come back and finish it off with the peas, the cos and the garlic.
Pheasant's been in the oven for about 14 minutes. So when you test this, you want to feel it at the plumpest part of the bird, right? So essentially that's the thickest part, which is down at the bottom of the breast. And when you push your fingers in, it should bounce back a little, okay? And of course, basting is really important. So even right at the end, I just make sure that it's basted, you know, it's shiny, it's moist, you know, and it looks beautiful. So we're going to give that a rest. We're going to give it a rest for 5, just so it draws through and all the temperature equalises throughout the flesh.
The salsify, bacon and shallots have been sautéing off. It smells absolutely beautiful. The next step is to pop the black garlic in. Because that garlic's already fermented, it's cooked. I don't need to pop that in first. If I pop it in first, it will go mushy. Aaron, question?
Yeah, obviously black garlic is really unique and has a taste all of its own. If you were wanting to make this at home and didn't have access to something like that, what would you suggest that people put in instead?
Roasting your garlic whole in the oven over salt and thyme is just delicious. At this point, I've really got some lovely caramel flavours happening in the pan. I'm just going to deglaze with a little bit of chicken stock, lift the flavour up, because what we're going to create is, yes, the vegetable garnish to go with Gary's pheasant, but also a bit of sauciness there. So I'm just going to glaze the bottom of the pan. Oh, it smells beautiful. salsify and thyme is like basil and tomatoes, okay? So a few little thyme sprigs. We've reduced that chicken stock down and you can see it's created this wonderful little sauce, all right? We're gonna add a little bit of creme fraiche. If you haven't got creme fraiche, you know, a couple tablespoons of cream's nice, but I just love creme fraiche because it's got that sort of sourness. It's not so thick and gluggy that as cream can be. And we'll just melt that through. That's just gonna add a really wonderful sort of creamy texture to the dish. The next step is some peas. And yes, I'm using frozen peas. Nothing wrong with them, okay? They're snap frozen from picking, and I think they're a fantastic commodity. Okay. The final thing to go in is the cos hearts. And it's basically baby cos. Peel off the leaves, and you're left with these beautiful little hearts that are bitter and flavoursome, and they're lovely cooked. A lot of people think you can't cook lettuce, but lettuce braised is absolutely delicious. And I'll just pop them in right at the last minute, because they don't need much cooking at all. And then leave the lid on, so that cos just takes a little bit of heat, and that's ready to go with Gary's pheasant.
So I've flicked the heat back on the pan, and I'm just going to put in a little bit of butter just to baste it and make this nice and shiny. And also to reinforce the tarragon flavour, I'm just going to put some tarragon into the pan. Now remember, I put the bones in there just to illustrate the caramelisation and the sort of flavour that you would end up with if you wanted to make a gravy or a jus. And this smells beautiful. I can get all that tarragon.
Oh, yum.
You know, the lemon, you can see the lemon's just caramelised. Look at this lemon. Look at that. And we've got all that flavour of the tarragon and the garlic under the skin. Lift this out, and then we can carve. So as I say, you can drain that and deglaze that. That would be gorgeous. So let's carve. So what we want to do is we want to put the knife in right along that breastbone. So through the joint. And that's pretty much perfect, George. There's a little tad of pink on there.
No, that's beautiful.
This is not like chicken, okay? And if you overcook it, it's going to be absolutely dry. So see that little bit of, it's just cooked there, just cooked. That's absolutely perfect, that's what you want. So we'll just trim that.
Yum. Right, let's pop this garnish on. So, a little bit of this cos down first. Salsify on. Garlic.
That looks absolutely gorgeous. That's our roasted pheasant with peas, bacon, baby shallots and salsify.
Right, Adam, Melvin, Claire, come and taste. Tuck in, guys. Did you get some of that black garlic?
Oh, wow.
It's great, isn't it?
The pheasant is cooked to perfection. It's not tough at all. And the flavours of the salsify goes well with the sweet black garlic. It's just really, really hearty meal.
Yeah, it's hard for me to put my finger on what the flavour of that salsify is. It's really mild and soft flavour. It's nice, really nice.
Claire?
I really love the black garlic and the tarragon. I think those are the things which really kind of take that dish from being a great dish and turn it into something even better.
I think everyone's forgotten about tarragon, you know? It's such a beautiful herb.
OK, guys, thanks very much. Thanks for tasting.
Thank you.
It's good. It was delicious. Did you like Alvin? Did you like it? Is it? It's not really our sort of stuff.
Top tips for this dish. First tip, when you're cooking something like this, introduce a flavour under the skin. That can be anything. Choice is yours, but a simple soft herb like tarragon, that's a good start. Also, cooking it as a crown is a nice way of doing it.
My top tips for this vegetable garnish, the salsify, to keep it white, it must go into that blanc. When you cook it, leave it in the blanc until it cools down and then pull it out. My second tip is, remember, each vegetable that you fuse together takes different times. So think about that. What goes in first, what goes in second. You get that order mixed up, you're gonna have a really sloppy mixture.
Not sure if you know this, but once upon a time, chicken used to be really, really expensive. If I talk to my grandmother or even my mum, she'll tell me that chicken was a treat. Now it goes into everybody's shopping basket as the cheapest thing. And that's a shame. So put something different in your shopping basket once in a while and try something new.
I'm really excited about today.
I know, it's going to be cool.
Yeah. Courtney and I are going to a private masterclass with Lauren Murdoch at Ash Street Cellar. I think a private masterclass all about tapas is perfect for this competition. Tapas dishes are usually quite quick, but full of flavour.
Hi guys, I'm Lauren Murdoch. Welcome to Ash Street Cellar. My food philosophy is to make sure that you're cooking with love and to realise that the customer needs to be happy. My food style at the moment would be using a lot of fresh herbs, a lot of fresh produce. The best piece of advice to pass on to an amateur cook would be to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, because it's important to follow your heart. We've got some great dishes here. You're going to love them. We've got garlic prawns with fresh basil. Then we've got eggs baked with roast tomato and Teleggio cheese. And we've also got grilled chorizo with Parmesan crumbed artichokes, mint and lemon oil. And to finish off, we have grilled sardines with a parsley salad and an anchovy dressing. Have either of you done much tapas or know much about it?
I love having a glass of wine and trying a few different dishes. I'm not one to get stuck with one dish.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very much my style of eating.
How about you, Callum?
I love the idea of sitting around the table, sharing food with lots of people. I think it's a conversation starter, and that's how I like to eat when I go out.
Great.
So I'm looking forward to today.
Cool. Okay, guys, let's go into the kitchen. I'll show you how to prepare some of my favourite tapas. Okay, the first dish I'm going to show you is a classic, but one that everyone loves, garlic prawns, finishing with a little bit of fresh basil. Okay, so the first step to this dish is putting in the butter. I'm using 90 grams of unsalted butter. I use unsalted butter because I find I can season it to the way I like it as opposed to using a salted butter. To the butter, I'm going to add a good teaspoon of pureed garlic. That's just been blended with a little bit of vegetable oil. And then to the butter and garlic, I add a good pinch of salt. I'm using a Murray River salt for this. So we're going to put this on a medium heat. We're going to just melt the butter without any real colour. That'll take about just under a minute. So once it's melted, just give it a good stir. Make sure all the garlic's gone through.
That garlic was raw, put into the puree, it wasn't cooked
raw,
first?
and it has to be quite fresh, absolutely fresh. So I have these beautiful prawns. They've been deveined and shelled with the tails left on, just in case people want to pick them up with their tails. I'm just going to put them into the butter. I'm gently cooking the prawns in the butter. We don't want the butter to go brown. We want the garlic to stay quite fresh. We're looking for the prawns just to start going a little bit opaque. About a minute or two on each side, depending on how big the prawns are. Just keeping it moving.
Is there a reason you've used butter and not olive oil to cook them in?
The reason I've used the butter is just for the flavour, basically. You could use olive oil if you couldn't use butter, but I just like the butter for the flavour. So I'm going to turn them over now. And they're almost cooked through. It really is that simple. There's nothing tricky about it. I'm just going to finish it with the fresh basil, about 2 leaves. Okay, so they're done. Just going to turn off the heat, give it a bit of a mix around, and then we're going to put them into a cast iron pan just to serve. It helps keep them warm and finishes off the cooking. Give it a good swirl. And that's it. So now we just put the pot onto a service plate. We then put a little lid on top, so when it gets to the table, the waiter takes the lid off and all the aromas of the garlic and the basil and the prawns get straight to them. Always serve it with some beautiful bread, some nice white bread to soak up all the butter and the garlic. There you have it. It's as simple as that. My garlic prawns with fresh basil.
Smells good, Cal.
Yeah, it smells great.
My top tips for this dish would be using unsalted butter, so you can season to taste, and throwing in the basil at the last minute to keep it nice and fresh. Okay, guys, get in there and have a taste.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Mmm.
They're good.
That's fantastic. The garlic's still really subtle, but it's definitely there still.
Great.
And the basil kind of just gives it that bit of freshness. It's really tasty.
Really good prawns, nice and fresh. Beautiful dish, simple, as you said. Good food doesn't have to be hard. It's, that's an awesome dish.
Good. My next tapas dish is eggs baked with roast tomatoes and Teleggio. Okay, we're going to start with the roast tomatoes. All I've done here is cut them into quarters, sprinkled them with a little bit of chopped thyme, salt and pepper, drizzle of olive oil, roasted them in a really low oven, about 130 degrees for about 3 or 4 hours. Okay, so now we're going to put the tomatoes into the terracotta baking dish. It's good to have one in the middle and just the rest arranged around the outside. To the tomatoes, we're going to add the Teleggio, which is a beautiful Italian washed rind cheese. It's great for baking with because it really melts beautifully and gets that nice sort of stringy effect. I've got about 40 grams here, cut into about 2 centimetre cubes.
Could you substitute, say, a mozzarella or a bocconcini or something?
Absolutely.
If you didn't have the Teleggio?
Yeah, you could. This is a bit of a stronger flavour. It's got that bit more of a nutty sort of flavour going on. And next we just add a little bit of chopped parsley to the dish. I'm using continental parsley. It's a parsley that I really like the flavour of. Next, we're going to add the eggs, just cracking them into a bowl and sliding them in. It's good to have really good quality fresh eggs for this dish. Hopefully the yolk will stay intact. And then finally, just a little bit of seasoning and then into the oven. Just salt and pepper. And then we're just putting it onto a tray and putting it in a hot oven at about 220 degrees for about 10 minutes. It keeps cooking in the dish, so it's quite important that it gets served straight away. So it's still a little bit soft in the centre. By the time it goes out to the table, it should be perfect. And there it is, my eggs baked with roast tomato and Teleggio. And like most tapas dishes, it's great served with nice bread, so get in there and have a try.
Wow, I can't wait to have a try of this. Cal, get a bit of bread. It's very good.
So what are you tasting?
I love the Teleggio in there. It's gutsy enough cheese that it kind of holds its own against the eggs, but it's not overpowering anything at the same time, so it's really tasty.
It's beautiful. The roasted tomatoes, it's really condensed the flavour of them, and it works really well with the fresh eggs. Very nice.
Great.
If you wanted to spice it up, could you add like some chilli flakes or chilli powder to the dish?
Yep, chilli flakes would be good. Also some of the Spanish paprika would be very nice on that. Maybe even put in some chorizo or something. My tips for this dish would be using great quality fresh eggs and also a fantastic cheese like Teleggio brings a lot of depth to this dish.
It's a great little dish, Lauren. I can't wait to try it at home.
Great. The next tapas dish I'm doing is the grilled chorizo with the Parmesan crumbed artichokes with some fresh mint and some lemon oil. So we're going to start with the lemon oil. So I'm just going to zest the lemons. Lemon works well with chorizo because it really cuts through a bit of the fattiness of the sausage, the spiciness kind of thing. Make sure you get all the zest off the lemon so you're not wasting anything. So there's quite a bit of zest there. It's a good zester. We're going to add the extra virgin olive oil. I'm just going to put this over here on a low heat, just to bring it up to about 60 degrees, just to infuse the lemon oil that's in the zest with the extra virgin olive oil. Just over warm, so I'll test that. Okay, the next step we're going to do is the Parmesan crumbed artichoke. Basically, we've got the marinated artichoke, which has already been cooked. We're going to cut that into quarters, and then we're going to egg wash it and then crumb it in a Parmesan and polenta crumb. So these are really good Italian ones. There's nothing wrong with using a good quality, tin product. And what we do is we just cut it into half. You can trim a little bit of the stem off, all that goes into the puree that we make later. So nice quarters, keeping all the trimmings to the side. So we're going to be crumbing the artichokes, cracking a couple of eggs into a bowl. Light whisk, just to break them up. So we do 1 cup of polenta to half a cup of Parmesan. So we're dipping it in, draining off all the excess egg so nothing really falls off. And then we put in there, really press it down so all the crumbs get in there. So you get a good, nice crunch on the outside with some of the Parmesan and some of the polenta.
Lauren, if you're doing this at home and you're starting with fresh artichokes, would you need to cook them before you did this process?
Absolutely.
Marinate them yourself?
Yeah. If I was going to do them at home like this, I would trim them down, like peel all the outside leaves off, peel the stalk, and then cook them on a very gentle heat in a nice vegetable oil or sunflower oil or something with some garlic, bay leaves, thyme, and just very gently bring them up and cook them for about an hour or so until they'll test them until they're tender.
Okay, so sort of like a confit?
Like a confit, yeah. Slowly cooked in oil, yeah.
Okay.
So we're just going to let these rest here until we're ready to fry them for order. They actually work better if they're sitting for a little while because the polenta kind of swells a little bit with the moisture and it kind of makes a better crust on the outside.
Would you ever leave them overnight, or would that be leaving them too long?
No, overnight is fine,
would be fine?
Probably not much more than that. Okay, the next step is the chorizo. So it's a very classic Spanish sausage. What I do is I peel it. It helps it stop curling up on the grill, basically. Chorizo is made of pork, a lot of fat, different spices, garlic, paprika. So I'm just going to slice it into about 8 slices on a diagonal. And then that's ready for the grill. Okay, let's check the lemon oil. It's been on for about 10 minutes. Looks quite good. All the oil from the lemon zest has been infused into the olive oil, so the flavours really come through now. You might like to try it now before we add the lemon juice to see the difference when all the seasoning's been added. It's a bit warm. Yeah,
lemony.
Come through.
Very lemony.
But it's still got a little bit of fruitiness of the olive oil as well.
The olive oil, you can still taste that.
It is good olive oil. We're going to add the salt and the lemon juice, which will really freshen it up and give it that nice acidity. I've added half a teaspoon of salt, and that was 50 mils of lemon juice.
Are you quite precise with your measurements for this oil? Like too much lemon juice will...
Yeah, it's quite precise. That's why I measure in mils as opposed to 2 lemons, basically.
Lauren, how much olive oil was that? Because it was 50 mils of lemon juice.
50 mils of lemon juice to 250 mils of olive oil. If you want to try it now and see the difference when I've added the lemon juice. Should be a lot fresher.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the lemon oil ready. Time for the cooking. We're going to start grilling the chorizo. So hot grill, just going to pop it on. Basically, we're just giving it a nice charred flavour, a bit of a crisscross pattern on there, making sure it's heated through and you get that nice grilled sort of flavour coming through as well. We're going to cook it for about 2 minutes on each side.
If you didn't have a grill at home, you could just do this in a normal fry pan?
You could do it in a fry pan, absolutely. You wouldn't have quite the same flavour as we'd have a char grill, but definitely you could do it in a pan. I'm just turning it so you get a nice even heat, so you get some nice grill patterns going on. So it's getting a nice sort of char grill flavour. All the oils are being released. You can buy raw or cooked chorizo. I buy the cooked chorizo. It's just a lot easier for cooking here, much easier to slice. So I'm going to take that off now and just rest it on the tray. So the chorizo's resting and we're going to move on to frying the artichokes. Vegetable oil at around about 180 degrees. So just pop them in the basket. We're going to cook them for about a minute until the polenta and the Parmesan start to go a little bit golden. So the artichokes, as we know, they're already cooked. All we're doing now is making sure the polenta and the Parmesan are nice and crisp on the outside and making sure they're hot inside. So that's been about a minute. I'm just going to take them out, pop them into a paper towel, drain off the excess oil. Nice golden colour.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're ready to plate the dish. We're going to start with some of the artichoke puree, which is very simple. It's just made with the trimmings from the artichokes, the stem and things, a bit more artichoke, and then blended with the oil that they're marinated in, and some lemon juice and some salt and pepper. So a nice big dollop the artichoke puree. That's it. The next step is to put some of the herbs down first. I've got some parsley and some mint. Big fan of parsley. I use it most of my cooking, and the mint gives it a lot of freshness to the dish. Next, I'm going to be layering with the chorizo and the artichoke, starting with 2 pieces of the artichoke, some pieces of chorizo, a bit more artichoke. Layer it up. The last step is to finish it with the rest of the herbs. So a bit more parsley on top, a bit more mint, and then finally a drizzle of the beautiful lemon oil that we've made.
That's great.
Looks good. And there you have it. That's my grilled chorizo with the Parmesan crumbed artichokes and mint and lemon oil. There you go. Have a taste. Let me know what you think. A bit of puree, a bit of the chorizo.
That's delicious. I think what the lemon oil that we made earlier does what you say. Like the chorizo is quite sort of fatty and salty, but then it cuts through with a bit of acidity and sort of the freshness of the mint as well. And then the artichoke's really crispy, but then you've sort of got the soft puree as well. So I really like how you've sort of using all of the ingredient. Like you didn't waste any artichoke, you made a puree out of it, and you didn't, use the zest and the juice.
And also the oil from the tin that the artichoke comes in and put it into the puree. So very resourceful.
Very tasty, very tasty. Smoky sausage and nice texture on the artichokes. Crunchy outside and really creamy on the inside. And the lemon oil really holds the whole dish together. Cool. It's beautiful.
Good. My top 3 tips for this dish would be choose a chorizo that you like. There's a few different types out there, so make sure you find one that you really like. Make sure the artichokes have a good amount of crumbs pressed into them, so you get that nice crunch in the fryer. And also with the lemon oil, using the whole lemon, so a good amount of zest in there and the juice and a nice oil. The final dish, sardines. Always have sardines on the menu, I love them, so I thought I have to show you this dish. It's grilled sardine fillets with a parsley salad and an anchovy dressing. The first thing we're going to do is make the anchovy dressing. So I'm going to start by slicing the echalot. Let's take off the root. And some nice thin slices. It's nice to have very nice thin slices. You don't want a big chunk of echalot in your dressing. So I'm just going to pop this in the bowl and add the sherry vinegar, 25 mils. Just give it a bit of a mix, and that sits for 5 minutes.
So will the acid in the vinegar start breaking down the shallot so it's not quite so raw?
Yeah, softening a little bit as well.
What other vinegars could you substitute if you didn't have a sherry vinegar?
You could use a very nice red wine vinegar. You're very good with that. A nice white wine vinegar as well. And the next thing I'm going to do is chop 50 grams of anchovy fillets. A lot of people don't like anchovies. I love them. But in this recipe, it's more of a seasoning. It's still quite an anchovy flavour, but it's the saltiness that sort of makes the dressing. And anchovies are used quite a lot in Spanish food. So it's quite finely chopped, but not as far as a puree. And put the anchovies in the bowl. Give it a good stir. And now I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients, starting with 1 clove of finely chopped garlic. And then I've got the zest of 1 lemon, which is finely grated. And the last thing I'm putting in now is 1 tablespoon of chopped parsley. And then we just give that a bit of a mix, and then I'm going to add 125 mils of extra virgin olive oil. And I'm just going to stir that together. So that's the anchovy dressing done. Put that aside. This is the plate we're going to be serving our sardines on. I've already put down some continental parsley. I'm going to add some baby capers and some olives to that plate. The reason I'm doing this part of the dish now is because sardines cook very quickly, and the parsley salad has to be ready on the plate. As soon as the sardines are ready, they can go on top. This is a really important thing for you guys to sort of learn, is getting the plates ready. Some things take different times to cook, and to make sure that you're ready to go as soon as the protein or something is ready to go on the plate. These are salted baby capers. They're being given a good wash to rinse out most of the salt. And then some olives. I'm using Niçoise olives, mainly for their size and their great flavour. They've been pitted. You've got to make sure you get all the pips out. And now I'm going to drizzle some of the anchovy dressing over the plate. So the plate's ready to go. We can start thinking about doing our sardines. These are beautiful sardines. They come from Western Australia. Very nice. They've been butterflied. If you were going to buy sardines from your fishmonger, make sure they're fresh. Let's have a look around. Nice and shiny, moist fillets. They're great. I'm just going to get the sardines ready for the grill. I'm turning them over so I can season the skin. Lay them all out. Some oil.
Is there any particular reason that you're seasoning the skin side and not the flesh side?
I really like the skin. I like to have just the flavour going on the skin as well. And we're using a vegetable oil, so it's quite a high burning temperature, so it doesn't burn on the grill. Just some salt. And some pepper. And fennel seeds.
Have you just bashed them up lightly in a mortar and pestle or something? Because they sort of look... Okay.
Very lightly toasted, and then when they're cooled down, give them a bit of a bash in the mortar and pestle. I like to use fennel seeds on a lot of my seafood dishes. I find traditionally they go very well. A very nice sort of aniseedy sort of flavour. So I'm going to put these onto a hot grill so you get a really instant searing. It should take about a minute or two.
Lauren, are you just going to cook it just on the skin side, or are you going to flip it at some point?
I'll flip it over just for 30 seconds at the most. But most of the cooking will be done on the skin side. You don't want to overcook them because they do dry out quite easily. They should be ready. Okay, I'm going to take them off. So they're cooked and ready to plate. So I'm just going to layer the sardines onto the plate. And I'm going to finish it with just a bit more of the dressing. I'm being quite generous here because I quite like the flavours of the vinegar and the onions all going together. There you go, guys. My grilled sardines with parsley salad and anchovy dressing.
Fantastic, it looks great.
Okay, guys, come in and try the sardines. I think it goes really well with the bruschetta.
The fish itself is quite oily, but that dressing's got enough of the sherry vinegar in it that's sort of got a little bit of acid in the parsley for freshness as well, so it's quite well balanced.
There are a lot of flavours going on in that dish, like the olives and the capers and the shallots and vinegar.
They all work well together.
My top tips for this dish would be make sure you have all the ingredients ready to go before you start cooking your sardines. And the other thing I would say would be to make sure you don't overcook your sardines because they can dry out quite easily. That brings the masterclass to an end. Hopefully you've learnt a few things, a few techniques you can take back with you. It's time to head back to the MasterChef kitchen.
Thanks for having us in your kitchen today, Lauren. Everything was really quick but had bags of flavour.
Thank
you. It was lovely to meet you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Bye. Good luck.
Next up in Masterclass, we're going to make a chocolate fondant with an Amaretto milkshake just to go with it, just for something different. The nice thing about this recipe to understand is that basically the more flour you put in, the more puddingy it becomes. The less flour you put in, the harder it is to make because it has a very soft shell, very gooey, very liquid centre. So the choice is yours. Let's get stuck into this one.
So, Gaz, you're going to make the chocolate fondant, and I'll make the milkshake. I'll come back.
OK. Now all I need is a volunteer. Jimmy, I saw you move there. Get on up here. So, Jimmy, grab that saucepan with that hot water, pop it on the stove, up to the boil. And what we're going to do is we're going to melt the chocolate and the butter first. So there's 3 stages to this. This is stage 1. So first of all, good quality couverture chocolate butter. There's 200 grams.
Is that dark chocolate?
Dark chocolate, bits of chocolate.
Yep.
It's a nice one too. And 200 grams of butter, which we've just diced to help the melting. So pop that in and then just stick it over that water. And we just want that to melt. Now, a bit of care when melting chocolate. My technique is to have that water boiling and to pop that bowl over the boiling water, turn it off. And there's normally enough residual heat to melt the chocolate and melt the butter. Next up, we've got 4 eggs whole into the mixer and 4 egg yolks, and we've got 100 grams of sugar. So you bung that all together, and we're going to make a sabayon, cold one, with those egg yolks. So we just turn it on full, let it whiz up until it's nice and soft, fluffy, and white. Brilliant. Right, Jimmy, we're going to sift the flour next. Grab the sieve. And a sheet of paper, only because it's nice and easy then to tip that into the machine. Also gives you a bit of surface area to work with. So just sift that. So there's 150 grams of flour. So let's just give the chocolate and the butter a stir, just see if it's coming together. And we've turned the heat off that now, so the residual heat from the hot water underneath here should just draw through. And the whole idea is you've got three elements here. You've got the chocolate and the butter, you've got the sabayon of the egg yolks and sugar. You combine those two and then fold the flour into that. That's looking pretty good. Love that. So is the chocolate melted?
Yep, all done.
Well, let's combine these ingredients together. So we'll lift this up. See how it's just nice and foamy. Right, let's pour that chocolate into this larger mixing bowl. The only reason we're changing bowls is because it's going to be easier to mix it in. That's good. Now, get that mixed. All right, and remember the technique. Turn and fold. As you're doing that, we're going to rain in the flour. And then what you want to do is just make sure that that's folded through and well combined. And you want to make sure that it's all nice and smooth.
Just a little bit more just to get it nice and shiny.
So what you're looking for is this lovely sort of glossy, thick mixture that you can literally pour into the moulds. And then I'm going to show you a little trick with the moulds. Let's have a look. It's nice and fine. Yeah, it's beautiful. Fondant mixture's ready to go. We're going to butter the mould, soft butter and cocoa powder. And these things can be a little bit sticky. That's why we're not using sugar but cocoa powder. And for some reason, if you use sugar, what happens is as it sort of crystallises and gets hot on the side of the mould, that it actually sticks the fondant inside it. And then you just dust that with cocoa powder and tip it back into the mould. Final little trick is that I also cut a little square of paper and just put it in the bottom of the mould, because when they come out of the oven, it always scares me that it's not going to come out. And that little bit of paper just seems to do the trick. Just brush a little bit of butter. That's it. So I just pop that in the bottom, all right? And then I put the mixture on top. And that way I know that that little baby's going to come out. All right? So we'll do 6 more of these, and then we'll pour the mixture inside. So the moulds have been buttered, a bit of cocoa powder, and now we're just going to put that mixture into the moulds and pretty much fill them right up to the top. All right? Off you go. It's a nice gooey mixture, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really thick.
They're going to expand a little bit because remember the mixture's been aerated by the eggs and the egg yolks. Yeah, perfect, Jimmy. They'll rise a wee bit, and then as you take them out of the oven, they'll start to fall a little bit. And the problem about pre-preparing these in advance is they collapse in on themselves, so they end up falling apart. So really they have to be made at the last minute. They can be popped in the fridge at this stage, or they can be put in the freezer. All that will happen is it will change the cooking time. These will take about 8 minutes. If you put them in the fridge, it'll slow it down a couple of minutes. If you put it in the freezer, it'll slow it down a couple of minutes on top of that. And what we do in a restaurant is we reduce the flour down to a minimum, and we actually freeze the mixture. So we cook it from frozen. And what that does is it keeps the centre absolutely liquid and then crusts up the outside.
Can I take the bowl back with me?
That's perfect, isn't it?
Yep,
look at that.
spot on.
Rock and roll.
Just enough mixture.
Just enough to lick the bowl,
Just
is that
enough,
what you're saying?
that's what I was saying. Can we take the bowl back?
Bad boy.
I know.
Right, Jimmy, now they're in the moulds, ready to go into the oven. 180 degrees for about 8 minutes. OK, Jimmy, pop them in the oven. So we're going to watch these babies closely while George makes his milkshake. Brilliant. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
If they don't work, it's your mixing.
It's my second dessert.
Off you go and sit down.
Thanks very much.
So Gary's got the fondants in the oven, cooking, and I'm going to quickly whip up Amaretto milkshake. So first step is milk, 500 mils of milk into a pot. Full cream milk. We've got 5 egg yolks here and 40 grams of sugar. Gaz, if I could get you to just cream them for me, please.
Sugar together.
Yeah. And while Gary's creaming the egg yolks and sugar, I'm just going to split this vanilla pod and infuse that into our milk. And we're just going to scald the milk and add that to our egg yolks and sugar. Scalding the milk basically means just quickly bringing it up to the boil and turning it off. And it's that whole preparation, you know, we've got our bowl of ice here, we've got our chinois here, so it's all ready to go.
I love vanilla. You know, you can see why they use vanilla in perfumes, you know, because it's such a beautiful, beautiful smell.
The milk's come up to the boil, and we're just going to infuse half of it into here.
That's it.
And the rest back onto the stove. That step is so crucial because you're not knocking the heat out of it, all right? You're getting it out of the pot and back in as soon as possible, all right? We want to get this to 82 degrees or just so it coats the back of a spatula. Quick, get it out. And we're just gonna cool that down straight over that ice. And then once you've done that, you can pour that into a jug and pop it into the fridge for about an hour until it's super cold. As you can see, the anglaise has got nice and thick and it's nice and cold as well. The next step is to get it ready to froth on the coffee machine. So we take some of our anglaise base, about a half a jug worth, and we just loosen that up with a little bit of milk.
That's cold milk?
Cold. Everything has to be super cold. Yep. If it's hot, you're gonna scramble it when you put it under the steam wand. Some milk, we'll just check the consistency. And it should be a little bit thicker than normal pouring milk.
Can you use soy milk instead of using full cream milk? Have you ever tried that? Because...
Yeah,
I'm serious.
It's a fair question, man.
Yeah, because people...
Especially this day and age where there's, so many people with different allergies and, soy milk's appropriate.
You can use the soy milk for that.
Yeah. Rice milk, almond milk.
Yeah, because that's a dark chocolate, and without the butter, I guess, swap that around, but it's pretty much dairy-free.
A little bit of our amaretto.
And you could use loads of stuff, yeah?
Yeah.
Like Kahlua or whatever.
Whatever you like.
Whatever alcohol.
About a tablespoon worth. And it's important to taste it.
It's good, isn't it?
Yum, that amaretto's delicious.
George, not everyone's got a cappuccino machine at home. Can you get a similar aeration of that anglaise and milk mixture on, like, a bain-marie or something if you're whisking it hard?
Even if you just heat the mixture up, make sure it's nice and light, you can aerate it with a stick blender, a little hand blender. Just buzz it while it's hot. It's just making sure that you lighten that anglaise up with milk, all right? Because you'll never be able to froth it up when it's really thick and dense. It will just sit on itself. Right, guys, let's steam this and get a nice frothy consistency on that anglaise.
George, tu mo cafe latte, yeah?
All right.
Oh, beautiful.
Nice so we've got a nice foamy sort of amaretto milkshake.
Ready to go on the fondant. OK, well, let's get these fondants out of the oven and see if they've worked.
Done.
Brilliant. So let's see if we can get these little fellas out. So what I want to make sure is that there's a little bit of air just down the side and that they come out.
It's a big moment.
It is a big moment, George. Ready? Hot.
Ooh.
No. Ooh, it's just holding together, George. Just holding together. Do it.
All right.
OK, a few volunteers to taste. The first three hands. Jonathan, Aaron and Jimmy. Go.
Lovely.
Great chef.
I'm going to taste it too. And remember, the little less flour, more molten.
It's good, it's nice and crunchy on the outside, but molten on the inside. It's really nice.
Well, it's not too floury as well. It feels like you're eating just soft chocolate. It's fantastic. Well cooked.
It seems an achievable recipe as well. Desserts freak me out, but that just looks like something.
Bit of chilli in that would be lovely.
Bit of chipotle and I'll be having a good time.
Well done, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So top tips for the fondant: butter the moulds well, and then dust them with the cocoa powder because it's not sticky and they'll come out easily. But if you put that little piece of paper in the bottom as well, you're just adding a security blanket. Second tip is you can freeze and you can refrigerate that mixture. So it's something you can prepare ahead of time. But remember, it's going to change the cooking time. And the third tip, 1.5 kilometres on the bike after the fondant, OK?
Top tips for making a simple amaretto milkshake. A beautiful anglaise. Remember, it's all about cooking that anglaise out as quickly as possible. Have everything prepared and go for it. Tip number 2, You need to lighten that anglaise up by adding milk to loosen it so you can get it nice and frothy. Well, what a week. Amazing challenges, aspirational food, a cracker of a week. Come over, grab some food, and let's celebrate. Come on, Jimmy. Let's go. Let's go. Grab the strawberries.
Oh, here they come. It's been raining, tipping down with rain.
What
out
a
there.
gentleman.
In you come.
Oh, look at this.
Wow, look at this.
Oh, order now, just what?
So, Callum, Courtney, you had a great day. So you did a private masterclass with Lauren Murdoch from Ash Street Cellar. How did it go?
It was fantastic. The biggest thing we learnt today was that tasty food doesn't have to be full of tricks and complicated and take hours to cook. She showed us 4 great dishes that were, you know, a matter of 10, 15 minutes, so it was really great.
The Chinese believe the number 8 brings fortune. You are the top 8 amateur cooks in this country, battling it out, and one of you here will become Australia's next MasterChef. Congratulations. The legendary 8.
Next time on MasterChef Australia.
What an exciting stage in this competition.
With only 1 week left till finals, the top 8 face the mother of all mystery boxes.
If there was ever a time to win a mystery box, this is it.
Then the amateurs pray for inspiration in the invention test.
To all you sinners out there, I offer you redemption.
As they create a dish based on the 7 deadly sins.
Thou shalt make a delicious dish.
But the 3 cooks who serve the least impressive dish will face an elimination challenge.
If this doesn't come off, they're going to think I'm an absolute idiot.
Food doesn't lie, only people do.